The scrape of the bolt sounds like a dying wheeze. The heavy paddy wagon door slides aside, and a blinding rectangle of light slices into the dark box that reeks of unwashed bodies and cheap tobacco. A slap of winter air hits like broken glass. Out! Move it! A guard in a black peacoat barks, raking a flashlight through the van. Bodies packed on narrow benches stir like worms in a jar. Grunts, muffled curses. They spill out, squinting, bent under the weight of invisible sentences. Last to step down is Sergei. In this new reality, his name will fade, replaced by a nickname like a scar. He doesn't squint. His eyes, cold and gray as the prison sky, take it all in. A concrete wall braided with razor wire spiraling into the blank heavens, gun nests on the towers, and trampled dirty snow, clotted with coal dust and cigarette butts. IK 142, Krasny Yar, maximum security. Welcome to hell. Face the wall, hands behind. The convoy shouts and prods the line with rifle butts. Sergei stands with his spine on the cold concrete, breath steady, heart even, a metronome, no fear, never had it. That's his quirk, his curse, his edge. He just analyzes. 2 riflemen on the flanks, 1 senior with a clipboard, 3 more with batons pacing the rank. Distance 3 to 4 meters, sloppy. Name, a baton jabs the first man. Kozlov, Article 105, Part 2, 19 years. Next. The intake goes fast, mechanical. 1 machine spit them out, the prison machine chews them in. When it's Sergei's turn, his answers are flat, precise. Vorobyov, Articles 209, 210, 162, banditry, criminal organization, armed robbery, 23 years. The baton man squints at the calm face, at the scar slicing his left brow into the hairline. He leans in, breath sour with booze and garlic. Think you're tough? He hisses. Sergei says nothing, looking through him, not at him, as if the guard is a smudge on glass. It enrages the man more than any insult. The baton whips his shin, hot pain. Most men would fold. Sergei doesn't flinch. He shifts weight and keeps staring past him. The senior with the clipboard lifts a hand. Leave him, Petrovich. Special handling. Orders say don't damage him. Yet. Reception, biometrics, and marking. Marking, like livestock. They are herded into a low brick building that smells of bleach and damp. Bare walls, tiled floor. A captain behind glass barks, "Strip, clothes in the bin." His face is as neutral as a coroner's. A terminal glows on the desk. Under harsh bulbs, they stand naked and humiliated. Blue ink, scars, ulcers map their lives. Stars on clavicles, church domes on backs, prison rings on fingers. Here, the tattoos are just patterns on meat. Sergei lays his palm on a scanner. A green line combs his prints. Eye. A red dot locks on his pupil. A beep. On the captain's monitor, photo, data, special notes. Vorobyov, Sergei Andreevich. Street name, Molchan, highly dangerous, prone to assaults on staff. Leadership traits, psychological resilience. Maximum. Recommend strict isolation. The captain finally looks up with interest. So, Molchan, let's hear you sing. Tattoos? No. It's true, not a mark. In a world where skin shouts status, his is clean. That either means he's nobody or something worse. Strange, the captain mutters. With those articles, you're usually blue as icons. Whatever. Doctor. A gray doctor checks him, logs vitals. A medic lifts a device like a vet's gun. What the hell is that? Someone gulps. RFID tag, the medic says. Progress, so you don't get lost. Under the skin, behind the ear. Quick, barely stings. Click, a sharp bite behind the ear. Now he's a dot on the prison's digital map. Every doorway, yard, clinic visit, tracked. The Gulag meets Century 2. After a scalding shower, they're issued black uniforms and underwear, then marched to quarantine barracks. A long, dim hall of 2-tier bunks, the air thick with sweat, cheap tobacco, sour cabbage, and wet wool. The door slams. Dozens of eyes pin the newcomers. Predatory, blank, measuring, first exam. Here they decide your caste. Man, outcast, snitch, or a climb toward thieves' ranks. From a corner screened by a sheet, A squat, bow-legged Khan in his 50s rises, leaning on a homemade cane. Thief rings glint on his fingers. "Welcome, fresh meat," he rasps. "I'm lame, I run quarantine. Step up." He sorts them at a glance, firing short questions. From Moscow Central, 158-3, theft. Man, bunk by the latrine for now, we'll see. Upper bunks for some, lowers for others. Some he ignores, floor scum. When Sergei steps up, Lame studies the flat gaze. "And you don't look like a con, cop, soldier." "Mine," Sergei says. "Ours covers too much." Lame smirks. "What's your life? For what time?" Sergei gives his articles. Silence drops. 209 and 210. No joke. Apex predator statutes. But the clean skin throws the room. "Serious charges?" Lame drawls. "You don't look it. Know the road? Respect the code?" Sergei looks toward the sheeted corner. "That your common fund?" Lame twitches. Wrong question from a fresh intake. "What's it to you?" He bristles. "Just asked. Ask like that and you'll age quick. Your bunk's up there. Sit quiet till you're placed. Clear?" Sergei nods, climbs. Movement smooth, economical, carrying a coiled force that makes others step aside. He drops the thin mattress, sits with his back to cold brick. The room keeps watching. Lame, his lieutenants, the men. Waiting for a mistake. It comes fast. The door cracks and a guard sticks his head in. "Boar, you've got work." A huge, doughy brute heaves up from behind the stove. A red DP armband, discipline and order section. A goat, owned by administration for extra rations and the right to bully. "What, boss?" "Entrance trampled. I want it shining. Grab a rookie." Boar's oily eyes scan the line and stop on Sergei, on purpose. Lame gives the slightest nod. This is the right. Will the high article newbie take a rag? If yes, he's broken. If no, there's a fight. Boar is twice his size and backed by the guards. "Hey, smartass!" Boar bellows at Sergei's bunk. "You heard. Mop the floor." He flings a stinking rag and a bucket of gray water at Sergei's feet. The barracks freeze. Even coughing stops. Every gaze locks. Moment of truth. Sergei looks down at the rag, then up at Boar. No anger, no fear, just cold, ringing emptiness. "I'm not your janitor," he says quietly, but every man hears it. "What?" Boar turns purple. "Who you think you are, punk? I said mop." He steps and swings a fist like a sledge. He expects flinch and recoil. He miscalculates. Sergei steps inside the arc. His left hand darts like a snake, not to block, but to spear. Rigid forked fingers ram Boar's throat, straight into the Adam's apple. A wet croak. The big fist dies midair. Hands claw neck, eyes bulge. Sergei doesn't pause. The right hand pistons the solar plexus. Boar folds, foam stringing his lip. Sergei pivots and drives an elbow into the base of the skull. A dull thud, ripe melon deep. The giant collapses. Blood pools from nose and mouth. No movement. Silence. Not a fight. An excision. Cold. Surgical. Sergei straightens. Breath steady. He checks his hands as if for dirt, then finds Lame, who clutches his cane white-knuckled, jaw slack. "You've got trash," Sergei says, nodding at the body. "Clean it up." He returns to his bunk, sits the same way, as if nothing happened. A siren tears the air. Boots pound. Guards crash in with batons and tasers, the intake captain in the lead. On the floor, faces down. Bodies drop, all but one. Sergei sits, unmoving. "You deaf?" the captain yells, closing fast. 2 tasers rise. Sergei turns his head. "He struck first," he says, eyes on the captain. "Self-defense. You've got cameras. My tag logs pulse and adrenaline. Check your data." The captain freezes. He knows the con is right. The new system cuts both ways. Every beat, every heat bloom on towers, every motion, recorded. Any accident is evidence. "Segregation," he snaps at last. 15 days. 2 guards take Sergei by the arms. He doesn't resist. He stands and walks himself. At the threshold, he looks back at Lame. No threat in the eyes. Something worse. Knowledge. Lame shivers. This isn't a cocky rookie. This is something else. A man who fears neither enforcers, nor guards, nor pain. A man who thinks several moves ahead. When the door slams, Lame leans to a lieutenant. Fire a signal to the mainland, to the thieves. Run his name. Who is this Vorobyov? What kind of bird flew in? He looks at the blood around Bohr's corpse, then at the empty bunk. For the first time in years, the damp air holds not just fear of the administration, but an older, irrational fear. The kind you feel looking into eyes that hold nothing at all. The tragedy of a man without fear is only beginning. Its first chapter is written in blood on the filthy quarantine floor of Colony 14. The cold here isn't the draft sneaking through cracked boards or the chill of a night-frozen barracks blanket. It's the inner kind, the kind that freezes blood and turns a heart to ice. Sergei, Gray, has felt it since the first step into Polar Owl, the special regime colony where the worst rot away. That cold is his only companion, his armor, and his curse. A week crawls by. 7 days, each one a year long. 7 cycles of bolts clanging, dogs barking, chlorine stinging the nose, and sour swill in tin bowls. Gray doesn't grandstand, but he doesn't duck either. He watches. His eyes, colorless as a winter sky, record everything. Who smokes with whom, who ferries contraband and food, who looks at guards with hate, and who looks up to them with a beggar's hope. He moves like a shadow among shadows. Barracks 3 runs on unwritten rules. The floor boss is an old con called Phonograph, named for a voice that rasps scratches like a cracked record. He's old guard, blue-fingered from prison rings, faded church domes on his chest, hard but fair by the thieves' code. His heavy is bison, 40-ish, silent, built like a wardrobe. They take Gray in at arm's length. No push, no pull, testing. The test doesn't come from thieves. It comes the way the dirtiest work always does, from the operations officer, the cum. Major Belsky's office is the only warm room in this ice-bound hell. New all-in-one on the desk, a wall-sized display flicking between live camera feeds, biometric gates at every door, RFID chips sewn into uniforms. The 2010s turned the zone into a high-tech camp. The rot stayed the same. Sit Kovalyov, Kum says, pointing at a chair bolted to the floor. His voice is oily, coaxing. He's short, soft-bellied, face forever shining with sweat. Tea? Coffee? I've got good beans. Gray sits. He wouldn't touch anything in here if he were dying of thirst. Every courtesy from a cop is a hook. Quiet type, Kum smirks, sipping. File says impulsive, especially brutal. You don't look it. 25 years, 2 bodies aggravated. Most fold quick or sprout horns. You sit like a statue. On the screen behind him, Gray sees his barracks through a thermal lens. Orange smears where bodies lie. 2 men smoking at a window. Total control. I see through people, Kum goes on. You're no thief, wrong habits, but not a regular man either. You're a lone wolf. They don't last. They join a pack or get torn apart. There's a third way, the smart way. He leans in, small eyes drilling Gray's face. This is a system. I'm part of it. Fight it and rot in the hole, or become a useful element. I need eyes and ears in the barracks. Who breathes what? Who is brewing what? Phonograph is old. Retirement soon. Bison's thick as oak. You're sharp. I read your case. You played the court like children until the prosecutors stacked the deck. I can use that. Gray's face is blank. Gaze a fraction off center, fixed on a spot on the wall. Think on it, Cum changes tack. You're young. 25 years is no joke. With good behavior and cooperation, parole at 15. Imagine 15, not 25. You'll see the street again. Or buck me. We've got specialists, press cells, the Rooster's Corner, Science Now, psychologists, meds. We break you so hard your mother won't know your face. He lets it sink in. In Barracks 3, there's this clown, Vitya the Weasel. Heard of him? A small nod. Gray noticed him day 1. Nervous, shifty eyes, hovering by the gear room, fetching tea for sergeants. Classic goat, an activist owned by admin. He's mine, Cum says flatly. Does as told, but he's greedy and hated. I want you watching him in his circle. Weekly drops through our clinic doc. No one will know. First step to your new life. Gray finally lifts his eyes. No fear, no hate, only a dead, bottomless stillness. I'll think about it, he says low. Smart, Cum brightens. 3 days. Your answer then. To sharpen your thoughts, his eyes glint. Tonight, Weasel accidentally scalds your mattress with boiling water. Let's see your reaction. You lash out. You do 15 days in the hole. You swallow it. The barracks will brand you weak and down you. You come whining to me. You understand. Your move. Escort. Evening roll call. Head count. Back inside, Gray sees the mattress. Wet, crumpled, steaming on the filthy floor. Weasel sits on the neighboring bunk, smirking, cleaning his nails with a sharpened matchstick. Silence falls heavy. 150 men watch. This isn't property damage. It's a public slap. Phonograph raises his head in his corner. Bison freezes mid-throw over backgammon dice. All eyes on Gray. One wrong move, and he's either touched, a corpse, or in the hole. Weasel, buoyed by invisible backing, goes bold. Oh no, tragedy, he sneers nasally. Butterfingers, kettle slipped. Don't be sore, newbie. Floor's a bed, too. Gray looks at the mattress, then at Weasel, then sweeps the room. He sees the waiting men, Bison's guarded stare, Phonograph's weighing look. He knows it's theater, staged by Coom. He's the lead. He says nothing. Calm, unhurried, he carries the mattress to the washroom to dry. Then he returns, takes an empty tin mug from a neighbor's bunk, fills it at the water barrel, and walks it to Weasel, slow, measured steps. Weasel tenses, the smirk slips. What are you? Hey, he squeaks. I said it was an accident. Gray stops in front of him. You could hear a fly beat the window. He doesn't swing, he doesn't shout, he just looks into Weasel's eyes. What stares back is so black and bottomless that Weasel flinches and looks away. I should take this up with you, Gray says, quiet but carrying. Man to man, for what you did. What claim? Who are you, tough guy? Weasel squawks, scrambling for nerve. I'm an activist. Nothing'll happen to me. It will, Gray says the same quiet way, and does the unexpected. He doesn't punch. He offers the mug. Drink, wet your throat. You're trembling. Weasel stares dumbly at the cup. Take it, and he's weak. Refuse, and he's weak. The move breaks every crude script he brought. Go to hell, he mutters. Gray moves, not a fist. His forehead slams Weasel's nose. The crack is loud in the dead air. Weasel howls, clutching his face as blood pours. Gray doesn't let him fall. He hauls him close by the collar and whispers into his ear, breath like ice. That's for the mattress. Now we go to the floor boss and you tell him exactly how you staged it and who told you to. If you lie, I'll tear out your filthy tongue and make you swallow it. Understood? He flings the limp body away. Weasel collapses, whining, smearing blood and snot. Gray turns to Phonograph's corner. There's a claim, he says evenly. He acted dirty. I ask for a thieves' hearing. Phonograph studies him a long time, old eyes x-raying the man. He nods at last. So be it, he rasps. Bison, stand him up. Wash his face. We talk. It's a clean win. Gray didn't bull charge. He didn't eat it. He went by the code. He shamed the offender in public but didn't stomp him out. He demanded court. He showed respect for the hierarchy and, at the same time, sent Coom a clear message. He won't scare and he won't bend. He'll play his own game. The hearing happens that night after lights out in the drawing room. One bulb buzzes. The barracks figures assemble. Phonograph, Bison, a few other old wolves. Weasel stands in the middle, shaking, dabbing his shattered nose. Gray faces him, calm, immovable. Talk, Phonograph croaks. What are you stirring? Why'd you wrong a man? Accident, Weasel bleats, glancing at Gray. Gray takes half a step. It's enough. Weasel jolts and spills. Cum told me, Major Belsky. He said test him, scald the mattress. If he snaps, the hole. If he swallows, tell the lads he's weak. He made me. Silence. Everyone knew, but hearing it from the goat's mouth is different. It's a direct strike by administration at thieves' order. So you crossed for good, Bison growls. Working with cops against your own. What's the sentence? Phonograph looks to Gray, the next stage of the test. By the code, it's one penalty, down him into the lowest caste, worse than death. Gray studies the shaking Weasel. No anger, no pity, pure calculation. Downing him is a gift to the cops, he says slowly. It's what Cum wants. He'll parade it. Here's what happens if you cross the thieves, and here's what happens if you work with me. I can't save him, and they'll finish him. He'll use the example to recruit others. Phonograph and Bison trade looks. The logic is iron, and they missed it in their straight-line hate. "What do you propose?" Phonograph asks. "He's a tool," Gray says. "A broken one. Don't destroy him. Throw him out. Let him live. But let everyone know he's a liar who worked for Cum and was punished. Let men, thieves, even the cops who despise their own errand boys, all see it. Let him wake every day wishing he died. That's worse than downing. That's a life stamped with shame," Phonograph thinks, thumb rubbing a nicotine-yellowed mustache. "You're right," he says at last. "You've got a head, not just fists. So be it. Bison, explain his new place in life, and I don't want his stink in our barracks. He can shuffle off to the woolies." Bison smirks, hauls Weasel up, whispers in his ear. Weasel turns chalk, nodding like a bobblehead. A shove, and he rockets out. Test passed. Phonograph comes to Gray. "Name?" he asks, tone changed, respectful. "Sergey." "Gray then," Phonograph nods. "I'm Phonograph. This is Bison. You're with us. You're straight, with a head. We need that. Cum will sharpen his knife for you now. He won't let you breathe. But you've got people to speak for you. The common fund will warm you. Hold tight." He offers his hand. Gray takes it. Dry, iron strong. That night, for the first time in a week, Gray lies on a dry bunk. The barracks no longer stare with suspicion. He's one of them. First trial cleared. The cold inside doesn't fade. It thickens. He knows this is only the start, that Cum won't back off, and every win like this is another step down a shaft you never climb out of. He lies under the dark rafters and thinks not of Cum, not of Phonograph. He thinks of the day he killed fear inside himself. Not prison bunks, but a sunlit yard of a private house, a child's swing, and 2 bodies under white sheets. And he feels again, not grief, not rage, only that swallowing, lifeless emptiness. The emptiness that made him unbeatable, and was killing him. Next morning, the loudspeaker called his name. "Convict Kovalyov, pack your things, out." 2 guards with batons waited in the corridor. "Let's take a walk, pretty boy," one sneered. Head of regime wants a chat. Gray knew the meaning, the whole, Cum's counterpunch. Formal pretext, fight with the stoolie. 15 days in a stone box where the temperature barely rose above freezing. Bunks unshackled from the wall only at night. He walked the echoing corridor without a twitch in his face. He'd passed the inmate's test. Now came the cop's test, and he was ready. No fear, only an icy, steady resolve to go to the end. He'd chosen this path. The price didn't matter. Night in a max security zone always smells the same. The reek of unwashed bodies baked into mattresses and walls, mixed with cheap tobacco, bleach from the latrine, and a dull, unending despair. One barred ceiling bulb gives off a sickly hospital glow. It carves out gray faces, state-issue uniforms, and tattooed church domes blued into backs and shoulders. Silence breaks only for a muffled cough, a bunk's dry creak, and the winter wind needling a window rimmed in frost. In the corner, away from the draft and curious ears, 3 men sit on their bunks, gray-haired as always, motionless, back to the wall. Loose posture, but inside it coils a snake's readiness. Across from him, Yakut smokes a hand-rolled cigarette, legs tucked under him, a veteran whose face looks like a dried riverbed. Beside him, Kaha jiggles a foot, young and vicious like a Caucasian mastiff. His fingers worry a cross at his neck. After the day's commotion, roll call and dinner, a gray fish-smelling porridge, comes the hardest time. The hour when the barracks walls close in, and the thoughts you outran all day catch up and start to choke you. "Heard about White Swan? Another sweep with toasting," Yakut rasps, blowing a thick plume. New Cum, frisky, scattered the thieves into solitary. The activists woke up, writing snitch notes on everyone. Rotten times. Kaha snorts. "Times are always rotten, Uncle Sasha. Only now the rot wears shiny wrappers, RFID chips, biometrics. Next they'll plug a chip in your ass to know when you take a dump. That's the difference." "There is a difference," Yakut says, crushing his bud on a tin can ashtray. "Before, a man was a man and his word meant something. Now it's zeros and ones. On the street you're a 1. In here you're a 0. Your life is a code in their database. Once you had to break bread to know a man. Now a guard hits a button and you're laid out. Every stint, every charge, all your ties. Where's the soul in that? Where are the codes? He studies his hands, knotted, ink dark. Rings, each with a meaning, crosses served, a history carved into skin. My first bit was 89, still Soviet, juvenile. Broke into a department store with the boys for kicks, not profit. Nabbed 2 hours later, gave me 3. That's where I saw the real thing, not the movies, where a loose word gets you a blade in the ribs, where there are thieves and there are nobodies. And to be a man, you prove it, again and again. That you answer for your mouth, don't sell your own, don't take cop favors. He stares at a point only he can see. Back then, the thief's word was law, unwritten, but the fairest. If a thief said it, it stood. Gatherings decided fates. Who gets crowned? Who gets stripped? Who goes under the knife? No one dared defy it because behind the thief's word stood truth. Human truth, not police truth. They crowned me in '96 in Vladimir Central. 3 elders came, Vasya Korsh, rest him, Givi Kalkitsky, Miron from Petersburg. Are you ready, Sasha, to live as a thief, forget home and family? Ready to give your life for the common, for the idea? I said yes. They named me Yakut, not by blood, but by land. From that day there was nothing but the thieves' world for me. No wife, no children, no home. Only the brotherhood and the law. He lights again. The shaking match glow cuts deep lines around his eyes. Why am I here now? Old business. In 2003, we clashed with a company under police protection. We squeezed them. They filed. Took me. Prosecutors screamed like a stuck pig. Gang leader, thief in law, public menace. 15 years of strict regime on pure lawlessness. Fake witnesses, cooked evidence. They needed a trophy, and they got it. Leaving court, a young escort whispered, "Hold fast, father. Truth is on your side." I told him, "Truth moved long ago. Here they only hand out time. So I serve. 12 down. 3 to crawl if I live. With the new tech, you can die of despair alone. They don't break you with fists now. They break you morally, turn you into a thing, an inventory number." Kaha smirks. All poetry, Uncle Sasha. Soul and law, that's last century. Now money and tech rule. The smart ride. I'm not doing time for stealing socks. He straightens, a blade in his voice. Moscow since 16. From Sukhumi. No roof, no stake, head and anger. That's what I had. Anger at a world where some have all and some have nothing. I started small. Cars, apartments, then rose. My crew, markets, restaurants, peanuts. I wanted more. In 2010, we took a mark, an outfit laundering cash. Billions passed through. They had security, real security. Not only meat at doors, an IT department, servers, encryption, satellite tails on couriers, latest tech. We prepped 6 months. Our hacker was a genius. He cracked them. We knew everything. Routes, access codes, guard rotations, the nest. The main cache warehouse. We took it clean. Not a shot. Faces to the floor, in, punch the codes, out with $200 million. Not just money, power. We could buy any cop, any prosecutor. He pauses, face darkening. But there's always a but. Our hacker was a rat from the start, FSB. He didn't just open the door, he led us. Every talk, every plan, recorded. They let us take the money to take us with it. Not just arrest, RICO, organization, armed robbery. The bust was cinema, Spetsnaz, helicopters, GPS tag in one bag, size of a fingernail. Tech, Uncle Sasha. In court they offered a deal. Give up everyone. The schemes, the network, 10 years. I told them to go to hell. I live by new rules, but one rule never changes. You don't sell your own. They gave me 25 strict for everything under the sun. Here I am. You know what I regret? Not getting my hands on that hacker and ripping his throat out with my teeth. In this world, you trust no one. Not word, not man. Only strength. Only your rage. Silence. 2 stories, 2 worlds, 2 epochs. The world of codes of honor and the world of code. Word versus algorithm. Both led their men to the same plank bed in a max barracks. A small, hiccuping voice from the dark. Me? I'm not even in the game. All 3 turn. On a lower bunk, curled up, sits a small, thin man of 40 they call Pate, named for his scared look and the way he smears porridge. Man, not thief caste, just grinding time, trying to be invisible. He usually keeps quiet. Tonight something breaks. Yakut looks at him without malice, with a trace of contempt. What, man? Story time? Go on. Pate flinches, but the need to speak wins. I was an accountant, small firm. My director, Sergei Petrovich, seemed decent. Suit, polite, pay on time. Then he started asking me to sign blanks, push strange transfers. I didn't get it, then I did. He was laundering. I tried to quit. He smiled. Too late, Valera. You're into the ears. All signatures are yours. If I go down, you go down for long. Tears start. I got scared. Wife, daughter. I kept working. 6 months later, the financial crimes unit hit us. Masks. They took me first. Director was already abroad. I was the prime. Organizer of a pyramid. Fraud on a grand scale. They showed documents, all with my signature. Victims I'd never seen swore I promised them gold. Investigator said, "Tell us where your boss is and where the money is, or you catch the max." But I didn't know. I swore. They didn't believe me, said I was stubborn. In the press cell, they almost killed me. Broke 2 ribs to make me pliable. 8 years. Wife filed for divorce. My daughter thinks I'm on a long business trip. He cries in silence, body shaking. I'm not a thief, not a bandit. I just wanted to live. The barracks goes dead still. Even the cough stops. Pate's story, pathetic, ordinary, is scarier than Yakut's and Kaha's. They played a dangerous game and lost. They knew rules and risks. Pate is driftwood sucked into a whirlpool, a mark taken for a ride. His tragedy is his normality. Kaha winces like it a toothache. That's why your codes died, Uncle Sasha. While you preach soul and justice, rats like his boss did real business, quiet, clean, and always walked. And sitting time for them are chumps like this. Yakut says nothing. He stares at the weeping bookkeeper with a cosmic weariness, not pity. He's seen hundreds like him, background, set dressing, consumables in their big game. All this time, gray-haired stays silent. He drinks it in, every word, breath, tear. No sympathy, no scorn. His face a mask. Inside, these stories lay down in layers across his own life, like strata. In Yakut, he sees his father's shadow, old school, principled, believing in an unbreakable thieves' law and devoured by an epoch. In Kaha, he sees himself, young, angry, ambitious, willing to climb on skulls. He remembers the rush, the taste of power and money. He remembers how the tech he trusted became his hangman. Cameras meant to protect recorded his face. An unbreakable encrypted phone turned out to be a Trojan. Kaha's betrayal, its bone familiar. He remembers the face that smiled at him 5 minutes before pressing a fob and letting the Spetsnaz in. And in Pate, he sees no one. A blank. Collateral. Gray-haired stopped sorting people into good and bad long ago. Only predators and prey. Pate is textbook prey. They don't survive, neither outside nor here. He lifts his head. His pale, near-colorless eyes trace over the 3. Yakut drowning in the past, Kaha choking on his rage, Pate crushed by his smallness. All of them fear something. Yakut fears oblivion. His world of codes collapsing for good. Kaha fears weakness, being on the bottom again. Pate fears everything, pain, humiliation, future, past. Gray-haired fears nothing. That gift, or curse, came the day he was betrayed, lying on asphalt with bullets through his legs, watching the car pull away with his money and his ex. Something burned out in him then. Hate, love, grievance, thirst for payback. All that was there. Fear was not. Even when an operative pressed a gun to his temple, he stared back with cold curiosity. Since then he'd lived in a vacuum. The absence of fear made him unpredictable and ungovernable. Risk meant nothing because he didn't perceive it as risk. He could meet any boss's gaze because he didn't see an authority, only flesh and blood. He could take any torture because pain was just sensation, not reinforced by dread. He was a broken man, and that break made him the most dangerous creature in this concrete hive. Other inmates, even thieves, felt it instinctively. They saw his calm in critical moments, the icy stare, the total indifference to threats. They were afraid. Afraid of what they couldn't grasp. Afraid of a man stripped of the primary lever of control. Fear. Gray-haired rose from his bunk. The movement was smooth and silent. He walked to Pate, still sniffling into a filthy mattress. Kaha tensed. Yakut narrowed his eyes. Gray-haired bent down and spoke quietly, but every ear in the corner heard him. "Stop crying." The voice was flat, emotionless. "Tears are shark blood here. The more you cry, the faster you get eaten. Your life outside is over. Forget it. Here you have one task. Live through today to reach tomorrow. That starts with ceasing to be prey. Understood?" Pate jerked up his blotched, frightened face and nodded convulsively. Gray-haired straightened and walked back to his bunk. He lay down, hands behind his head, staring at the ceiling. Yakut and Kaha kept silent. They understood they'd seen more than a veteran's tip to a rookie. It was a demonstration, a survival philosophy pushed to the absolute, brutal, inhuman, but the only one that worked inside these walls. The night pressed on, but now a new tension threaded the quiet. The stories were told, the roads marked. Among those roads to nowhere lay one more, the path of the man without fear, the worst of all. Air in the barracks thickened to swamp slurry. It pressed on lungs, clogged pores, stank of unwashed bodies, cheap tobacco, and concentrated animal fear. Even the eternal hum of the fluorescents seemed to hush. Their flicker turned nervous and jerky. Men hugged their bunks, trying not to breathe, not to look toward the central aisle where 3 sat at a table cobbled from stolen boards. Pasha Compasses, the zone's overseer, fussily polished an already clean-finished blade with a rag. Fingers stacked with blue rings trembled. Next to him, Vaha the Chechen slouched in a rickety chair. A shaved, muscular fighter with lead-colored eyes that expressed nothing. He was the muscle, not the brain. The brain was the third, gray-haired. He didn't move. Big scarred hands rested on the tabletop. He stared at a mug of cooling Chifir. His stone-gray face showed nothing. No anger, no worry, no thrill. Emptiness, the kind that sent a chill down the backs of the hardest cons. He looked like a surgeon before a tricky operation. Total focus, zero emotion. In that deathly quiet, his calm was louder than any shout. "The freight from Tamaz came in 3 days ago," Compasses began, voice dull, eyes down. 2 big roads, clothes, smokes, tea, all by the list, and something for the soul, 500 grams of white, clean. He swallowed. Vaha creaked in his chair. "Was," gray-haired corrected, voice even. Keyword, was. Compasses flinched. "Right, was. Only half reached the barracks. Tea, cigs, small stuff. But the main, gone, and 20 cartons of Parliament too. Tamaz is raging. Wants a sit-down on the shop floor in an hour. The shop floor, neutral ground. Kingdom of rust and cement dust. Administration appeared there only after bodies were hauled out. A perfect place for a slaughter. He doesn't want. He's calling us out," gray-haired said, just as calm. "He's already decided. He doesn't want truth. He wants blood. He thinks we shorted him, kept weight for ourselves. But we," Compasses started, then choked under gray-haired's look. Not angry, worse, appraising, a butcher weighing a carcass. "That we didn't, no one cares now, Pasha. The word is out. Tamaz feels insulted. His men are sharpening steel. He'll brand us rats in front of the whole zone. And rats." He let the word hang, eyes sweeping the frozen barracks. "Get crushed." Each word hit like a drop of acid. Men shrank into their collars. They knew what was coming. A showdown between the Slavic wing, informally led by gray-haired, and Tamaz's Caucasians, wasn't a scuffle. It was war, wall on wall, to the first corpses. If gray-haired lost, they'd all go under the knife, get dumped into the lowest caste, turned into slaves. The stake was bigger than 500 of heroin. It was status, power, life itself. "What do we do, gray-haired?" Compasses whispered. "They outnumber us. Tamaz has 20 hard biters. We can scrape maybe 12. Gray-haired lifted his eyes from the mug and looked at Vaha. "Gather ours, only proven ones, who doesn't fear blood. Let them take what's at hand, rebar, shivs, pipe, but quiet. Tell them we're going to talk, calmly." Vaha nodded and stood. His bulk seemed to fill the aisle. He moved down the rows, and a wave of fear and excitement rippled through the bunks. Preparation began, silent, almost soundless. A shiv wrapped in cloth pulled from under a mattress. A length of pipe checked behind a beam. Gray-haired turned to sweat-glossed compasses. Pasha, you stay. You're the barracks watcher. It's not your place to go knife dancing. You'll wait. If we don't come back, you know what to do. I do, Compasses managed. Reach the outside, say Tamaz. No, Gray-haired cut him off. His voice went ice hard. If we don't return, you go to Tamaz and say you recognize he was right. Ask him to spare the men. Hand over the common fund. Humble yourself, but save lives. Understood? Compasses stared, stunned. It broke every code. Surrender your own, bend the knee. What about thieves' honor? Gray-haired smiled for the first time that night. The smile was scarier than a snarl. Honor is for the living. The dead don't need it. And my men, even dead, must not be the reason this entire barracks gets buried. Do it! He stood, not tall but unbreakable. No puffing, no showing off. Just a rock. And one more thing, Pasha. When it's over, find the real rat. Tamaz isn't a fool. He wouldn't charge blind. Someone smart leaked and set us up. Someone close to you. Find him, and don't kill him. Bring him to me if I return. He turned for the door. 12 shadows with iron in their hands slipped after him. Compasses sat alone, staring at his shaking hands. He suddenly understood with dreadful clarity why even thieves feared gray-haired. Tamaz was terrifying in anger. Other bosses were cruel. Gray-haired was terrifying because he lacked fear. He was walking into likely death, a fight where they were half the number. Yet he thought not about his life or honor, but how to minimize losses among ordinary men, mapping moves ahead. He wasn't playing thieves' games. He was waging war, a tragedy not only for his enemies but for himself. A man who cannot fear is not fully human. The shop floor met them with the smell of cold weld and machine oil, a huge half-ruined hall where, back in the Union, they'd made tractor parts or shell casings. Now it belonged to rust and drafts. Moonlight through smashed roof windows lit monstrous silhouettes of machines like prehistoric beasts. Tamaz's men were already there, 20, maybe 22, clustered tight and aggressive in the center. Up front, chest thrust in a gleaming tracksuit, stood Tamaz himself. Beside him, his right hand, a wiry Ossetian called Beast, famed for animal cruelty. In their hands, iron glinted. Shivs, knives, knuckle dusters. Gray-haired's men lined up opposite, 20 paces away. The air was stretched to snapping. It felt like the room would explode from tension. Gray-haired! Tamaz's voice cracked like a shot under the echo. You come to answer or to beg on your knees? Gray-haired walked forward alone. His men stayed rooted. He stopped halfway between the groups, nothing in his hands. I came to talk, Tamaz. Calm voice, audible to every corner. You made noise across the zone, accused me of rat work. That's serious. You need to justify it. Justify? Tamaz roared, face flushing. My freight vanished. 500 grams of gear my people waited for, and 20 cartons of smokes. My receiver swears he handed it to your runners. Only crumbs made it to your barracks. You calling my man a liar? Your man either got scared or was made to say that, Gray-haired said evenly. I didn't take your stuff. I don't need what's not mine. You know that. I know you, Tamaz began. Beast stepped up, rolling a long shiv. You thought you're the brain here. Thought you'd take the zone. We'll show you who's boss. The wire snapped. Tamaz's men leaned forward, ready to surge. Vaha's crew tightened their grips. Gray-hair didn't even glance at Beast. He looked straight at Tamaz. Use your head. Why would I want your heroin? Sell it here? To who? Your own? Stupid. Why your cigarettes? We have our own. This is a setup. We're being thrown against each other. You're a thief. You should see it. I'm a thief, Tamaz thumped his chest. And I see a rat wriggling. You lost fear, gray-haired. He who doesn't fear shows no respect. He who shows no respect must die. He signaled. End of talk. Hit them! As the wave surged, the unexpected happened. Gray-hair didn't fall back to his line. He didn't draw a hidden blade. He took 2 quick steps forward, straight into the oncoming mass, straight at Beast, the closest. Beast, savoring easy prey, raised his shiv for a belly strike. In that instant, gray-haired vanished, slipping off the line with an almost dancing move, letting the Ossetian rush past. His left hand seized Beast's blade arm and wrenched it to a vicious angle. His right, fist closed around some small, heavy object, snapped into the base of Beast's skull with surgical precision. A wet, sickening crunch behind them. Beast collapsed without a sound, bones in a sack. Gray-haired kept the shiv. 1 second. The hall froze in shock. Anything was expected, except their most dangerous fighter dropped first. So easily, so routinely. In that beat of confusion, Vaha and the crew struck, not head-on like rams, but as drilled. "Hit the legs!" Vaha shouted. "Drop them!" The front rank of Caucasians howled. Rebar smashed shins and knees. Men fell. The formation tangled. Gray-haired's plan worked. A frontal clash would have crushed them by numbers. Take mobility. Seed chaos. Gray-haired didn't dive into the scrum. He ghosted the edge. Beast shiv in hand, he didn't stab. He did something worse. He commanded. 2, swing left. Machine there. 3 behind it. Vaha, don't push center. Hold the flank. His calm voice threaded through screams, gasps, and metal clang. He saw the fight like a chessboard, weak points where his line would buckle. Tamaz shook off the shock and charged, roaring. Bull strong, bear mad, swinging a pipe length, smashing anything in reach. He hunted gray-haired, eyes blazing hate. "Gray-haired, out!" Gray-haired stepped into view as Tamaz dropped one of his men. Tamaz heaved the pipe at his head. Gray-haired didn't dodge. He stepped in, taking the blow on his left forearm, a dull crack of metal on bone. No flinch. He closed distance. The shiv in his right hand flicked up, almost lazily, under Tamaz's ribs, angling north. Tamaz froze, eyes blown wide. He looked down at the handle jutting from his belly, then back up. The rage was gone. Only bafflement. He opened his mouth to speak. Blood poured out. He swayed, then crashed to his knees. The fight stopped. All eyes fixed on their leader, kneeling in his own blood. Those still standing lowered weapons. Shock, horror. Their world fell in an instant. Gray-haired stood over him. His left arm hung limp, bone likely broken. His face was unchanged. He looked at the silent Caucasians. "Fight's over," he said quietly. "Help your wounded. Take your leader and go." He turned away, not looking at the fallen, the blood, the broken bodies. His men, stunned and wordless, followed. Vaha came up, bracing his sound arm. "Broken?" He nodded at the left. "Yes," Gray-haired said. "It'll mend." They left the shop to the cold night. Behind them, groans of the hurt and the dead quiet of defeat. Back in the barracks, graveyard silence. Compasses jumped up, face chalk white. One look at Gray-haired, the rag-wrapped arm, the faces of his crew, and he knew. "We won," Vaha said, not Gray-haired, awe in his voice. Gray-haired sat, pulled a small object from his pocket, the thing he'd used on Beast, a bearing ball wrapped tight in electrical tape. Perfect palm sap, invisible, deadly. He set it on the table. "Compasses," he called. The watcher edged over, afraid to breathe. "You know what to do." "I'll find the rat. I swear I'll find him," he babbled. Gray-haired nodded, closed his eyes. Somewhere in the barracks, someone dared cough. The tension drained, replaced by thick, tangible respect laced with fear. They hadn't just won. They'd seen something they never had. A man who walked 12 against 22, neutralized the worst first, broke the leader, and ended the fight with minimal losses, paying only with his arm. He didn't savor victory, didn't gloat. He just completed the task. A young first-timer, shaking, approached him. "Gray-haired, were you even a little afraid when there were twice as many of them?" Gray-haired opened his eyes. Empty. For a second, something like sorrow flickered there. "Fear is an emotion. Emotions are a luxury," he whispered. "I don't have time for them. Fear makes you think about what might happen to you. You must think about what you must do to them. Big difference. When you're afraid, you've already lost. Not to them. To yourself." He turned away. Conversation over. The kid stared like at an icon. He missed the point. He didn't see the tragedy in those words. Gray-haired hadn't conquered fear. He simply didn't have it. Long ago, in another life, something burned him empty, leaving only cold, flawless calculation. That's why everyone feared him. They fought for life, status, code. He didn't. He just did his job. Survive where survival was impossible, at any cost, even his soul. The boiler room of White Swan was thick and heavy like wet cloth. It smelled of rust, hot metal, old sweat, and cheap Prima tobacco spiraling under a low, sooty ceiling. Huge glass wool-wrapped pipes droned like a beast dying in agony. A single weak bulb in a wire cage threw ugly, dancing shadows on concrete walls. Here, at the heart of the prison hell, in a place the administration considered a dead zone, fates were decided. A gathering. A word that froze a common inmate's blood and made a square's knees buckle. No guards here with batons and dogs. No prosecutors with statutes. Only the thieves' law, unwritten but carved into memory and skin by thousands of lives. About 20 men stood or crouched along the walls in a ragged semicircle, weathered faces, scar-mapped with heavy waiting eyes, like stone masks. Barracks watchers, district bosses, the zone's top bums. In the center, on an old wooden crate like a throne, sat Grandad Caspian, an old-school thief-in-law, crowned back in Brezhnev's day. His gray head bowed, fingers inked to the phalanges slowly rolled homemade breadcrumb beads. Beside him, leaning on a hot pipe, stood Yakut, new-wave thief, sharp, clever, a predatory smirk pinned to narrow lips. Opposite, in the open space, stood two men. First, Sukumi, a bloated 50-ish boss with a bull neck and bloodshot eyes. He breathed hard, nostrils pumping, his animal hate stare locked on the second. The second stood absolutely still. Gray-haired, he didn't look at Sukumi. His gaze was calm and empty, fixed through the wall. He stood loose, but the looseness was fake, like silence before a rock slide. He was the epicenter of an oncoming storm, and everyone in the boiler felt it. The tension could be cut with a knife. Even the pipe's drone seemed to hush to listen. Grandad Caspian raised his head. Faded, nearly colorless eyes swept the room. His thin, creaking voice rang unexpectedly loud in the hush. I declare the gathering open. Sukumi holds the floor. He has claims on Gray-haired. Speak to the point, no filth. There are men here, not pigs. Sukumi stepped forward. His bulk swayed. Men, thieves, bums, he began in a thick, sick bass, trying for ceremony. Our life stands on the codes, on a law that's one for all. The law says, don't touch a man, don't take his last, don't work with the state, and most of all, solve everything through the brotherhood, through the gathering. Don't do lawless outrage. He paused, glaring heavy at all. And what do we see? A man rolls into our zone. He jabbed a fat finger toward Gray-haired, and he spits on that law from a bell tower. He thinks he is himself the gathering, the decree, and the thieves' court. I'm talking about what happened 3 days ago. About the rat. A faint whisper rippled through the boiler room. Everyone knew. The rat, a camp snitch, had been found in the drying room with a shiv in his throat. That was routine. The circumstances weren't. Yes, he was, Sukumi went on, gathering steam. A lost cause who sold men's lives to the cops for a pack of tea. He had to be punished fairly. Pass a decree, name him a maggot, drop him to the bottom so he'd sniff the latrine to the end of his term. And if the thieves' decision was to remove him, then do it quiet. No noise, no dust. So the screws wouldn't spook and turn the place upside down, tightening bolts on all of us, on our whole common house. He thumped his chest. And what did this one do? He fumbled for a word. This head case, he did it in front of everyone, at roll call with the whole zone on the parade ground. Walked up and dropped him with one strike, in front of the guards, in front of the boss himself. You grasp what he did? He didn't just cut a snitch. He threw down on all red authority. He put the whole brotherhood under the hammer. That same day, they flipped every barracks. A shakedown like we haven't seen since the 90s. The Watcher of the Fourth got nailed with the common, till, 100,000 rubles, and 2 letters to the outside. The kid got 6 months in the hole. The shop crew lost all their side goods. The bolts got cranked so tight we can't breathe. And all because one man decided he was above the common, that his personal revenge or his notion of justice outweighed the welfare of the whole zone. I'm asking you as men, is that thieves' law? No, that's pure lawlessness. He stopped, breathing hard, face flushed purple. I say for a stunt like that, for putting the Brotherhood under fire, for disrespecting the gathering, gray-haired must be called to account, hard. He acted like a torpedo, not a bum. He must answer for his deeds. I'm done. A heavy silence settled. The charge hit the sorest spots: common good, exposure, hierarchy. For many, especially the old guard, these weren't words. They were foundations. Dozens of eyes fixed on gray-haired, waiting for his reply. Excuses, emotion, maybe aggression. Gray-haired slowly raised his head. His face stayed blank. He didn't look at Sukumi. He looked at Grandad Caspian. May I? His voice was quiet, steady, without a hint of nerves. Caspian nodded. Gray-haired stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice like Sukumi. He spoke as if explaining obvious things to children. Sukumi says the right words, about the code, the common, about not putting the Brotherhood under fire. All correct. But Sukumi lives in the last century. He thinks we're sitting in Vladimir in 1970. In case anyone forgot, it's 2010. He swept the room. Sukumi says, the rat was a snitch. We should have proclaimed him, dropped him. Do you know what kind of snitch he was? He didn't just wag his tongue in an officer's office. He had a mic in the button of his robe, and an RFID in his boot heel, like merchandise in a supermarket. He walked the zone, and the intel boss watched on his screen in real time who he talked to, where he stood, which barracks, which bunk. Think why the raid hit so clean. Why they found the till in the fourth. Because yesterday the rat hung around his storeroom for almost an hour. He was marking targets. A murmur rose again, this time edged with disbelief and surprise. Yakut, at the pipe, allowed himself a thin smirk. Sukumi proposes a decree, gray-haired continued in the same even tone. How long does a decree travel the zone? A day? 2? In that time, the rat would have tagged each of you, every watcher, every district man. He'd have given up every stash, every phone, every road. In 2 days, this place wouldn't be a high-security colony. It would be a model camp, where every man wears a GPS collar. You say I exposed the Brotherhood. I say I saved what could still be saved. I didn't have 2 days. I didn't have 2 hours. How do you know? You're lying, Sukumi barked. Fairy tales about tags and mics. Gray-hair didn't turn to him. He reached into his quilted jacket and took out a small, filthy rag bundle. He unwrapped it slowly. 2 items lay on his palm, a tiny black dot like a match head and a copper coil as thin as fishing line, cast into a chip of clear plastic pried from a heel. I took these off his body while the guards were running, Gray-haired said calmly. This, he pointed to the black dot, records sound, and this, he touched the coil, transmits it. Ask Yakut. He knows this better than we do. He'll confirm. All eyes snapped to Yakut. He peeled off the pipe, came over, lifted the tiny evidence. He raised it to the light, turned it. True, his voice came clipped and hard. A next-gen bug and a passive RFID, 10-meter red range. Readers in the duty office. They weren't just listening. They were cataloging movements, building a digital map of the zone in real time. A few more days and they'd know more about us than we do. His words fell like stones in a well. Sukumi's talk of lawlessness and exposure suddenly looked naive. This wasn't a code scuffle. It was survival in a tech world where old rules failed. Sukumi felt the ground slide out. So what? He roared, redder still. Even if so, even if the maggot was stuffed with iron, who gave you the right to decide alone? Who are you? A crown thief? No, you're nobody. You should have come to the men, to the granddad, to me, said it, explained it. But you acted like a bull, a mad dog. You showed your true nature. You don't care about anyone but yourself. If I'd come to you, Gray-haired answered in an icy tone, looking into Sukumi's eyes for the first time, you'd start convening a gathering. While you convened, the rat would be sitting in your storeroom tagging you for the screws. Then you'd talk long and pretty about the code, and by the time you decided, SWAT would be taking us in. Your code, Sukumi, is good for campfire stories. It doesn't work against thermal cameras and directional mics. The world changed. You didn't. You're not scared that I broke a rule. You're scared I showed how outdated your rule is. You're scared your time is over. Low blow. At the most sensitive point, authority, status, the right to be the wise one. Sukumi's face twisted with rage. He lunged a step, fists like small melons. "You little, I'll stand." Grandad Caspian's thin voice cracked like a shot. Sukumi froze mid-step. The boiler held its breath. The old thief rose from his crate, walked to gray-haired, and took the bundle with the bugs. He studied them a long time under the weak bulb. His wrinkled face was unreadable. "Technology," he rasped to himself. "Clever iron. Once a man's word was scarier than a knife. Now it's gizmos." He turned to Sukumi. "You're right in part. Order is needed. One man must not decide. Men must. If each bum is his own judge, chaos, war of all against all, road to nowhere." Sukumi lifted a little, triumph creeping back. "But," Caspian went on, and the smile slid off Sukumi's face, "gray-haired is also right. The enemy changed. He doesn't kick the door with a boot now. He comes through the air, into the ear. He watches from a satellite. He listens through walls. If you answer new threats with old methods, we'll rot here not even knowing how we were outplayed." He scanned them with faded eyes. No fear, no anger, just a cold, century-old survival wisdom. A gathering isn't to sing old songs, it's to live further. So our thieves' course doesn't break. Gray-haired acted outside the code, but he preserved our common. He pulled the stinger from a viper ready to bite us all. He risked his hide to cover ours. And you, Sukumi, slept on this threat. You saw the tip, the snitch, not the system behind him. Your truth is in the past. His is in the present, however bitter. Caspian tossed the bugs at Sukumi's feet. They clinked on concrete. "Your claim is empty, Sukumi. It's born of fear, not justice. Fear the Reds, not the new. Gray-haired is guilty of acting alone. He will answer for that. Later, when time comes. For now, he's right. Matter closed. The word of a thief is law. Decision rendered." Sukumi stood thunderstruck, publicly humiliated. His wisdom and experience declared obsolete. Authority built over decades ground to dust in minutes in this stinking boiler room. He looked at gray-haired with more than hate now, mortal hurt and a promise of revenge. Not by the code, personal, dirty, bloody. The rest were silent. They understood they'd witnessed a tectonic shift. The old world with its inviolable rules and rights had cracked, and through the crack blew the cold, merciless wind of a new time. Its name was gray-haired. Grandad Caspian's voice went even again. "Since all are here, another issue, the common fund, Yakut, report." The gathering moved on to camp housekeeping. The air had changed for good. Head down, Sukumi slid to the exit and vanished into the dark corridor. No one stopped him. Everyone knew he hadn't just left the meeting. He'd left for the past. Gray-haired stayed where he was. He didn't look like a winner, no triumph on his face. He just stood, listening to Yakut's report on money flows and aid to the infirmary. He had won. He had survived. But he felt the emptiness thicken around him. The old guard now saw him as a mortal threat, a breaker of pillars. The young and pragmatic, like Yakut, saw only an efficient tool, a breaker ship to send ahead to smash ice. No one saw a man. They feared him, feared his indifference to death, his cold mind, his ability to see what others didn't. They feared him because he was a mirror reflecting their own fear, fear of the future, fear of becoming unnecessary, fear of being erased by a new soulless reality of microchips, biometrics, and satellite tracking. When the gathering ended and men began to drift off, Yakut came over and clapped his shoulder. "You washed the old man good," he said with a predatory grin. "He won't forgive you. Stay sharp. He may go off the code." "He already did," Gray-haired answered softly, staring into the dark doorway where Sukumi had vanished. "When he decided his personal grudge outweighed truth." "Then it's your problem now," Yakut shrugged. "You climb today. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. The granddad covered you, but he's not eternal. He's watching your every step under a microscope. You're not just a bum anymore. You're a weapon. A weapon either fires where they say, or it gets stripped and sunk in a swamp. Remember that." Yakut left, and gray-haired remained alone in the humming boiler room. He stood a few more minutes, staring at the weak bulb. He felt no joy, no relief, only the familiar cold emptiness inside. He'd won this bout, but he knew it was just one battle in a war no one could win. A war where every next step led deeper into the dark. He was a man without fear, which made him the loneliest and most dangerous creature in this stone box, packed to the brim with fear. That was his tragedy. The Black Swan's boiler room was the zone's heart and its purgatory. The roar of ancient boilers fattened on red coal dust swallowed any scream. The air, thick and wet like bathhouse steam, smelled of hot metal, damp concrete, and old human sweat. No cameras here. Steam and perpetual half-light made them useless. No red informers either. They feared this place more than the whole. The boiler room was the black suit's unofficial territory, its high court where the thieves' law wasn't just rules. It was a living, breathing, punishing force. Today the air was charged to breaking. In the center, on a rough bench, sat three. In the middle, Yakut, thief-in-law, camp watcher, weather-tanned leather face unreadable, slit eyes studying anyone who wandered into the lamp's tight cone. On his left, Greek, the district holder of the common fund. Big shoulders and bull neck spoke of old strength, but now he looked more like a tired accountant totaling not money, but human fates. On the right, a little back in shadow, stood gray-haired. He didn't sit. He always stood at these gatherings, motionless as a granite idol, arms folded. His presence felt almost physical, cold, attentive, utterly dispassionate. Opposite them, kneeling on greasy, grimy concrete, were two. One, an older man called Dad, about 50, face carved with despair. His jacket was clean, but his hands trembled with a fine, unstoppable shake. The second, a 30-year-old with quick, clever eyes and a superior smirk glued on even like this. They called him Digit. He'd landed here for bank card shenanigans, and even in camp managed to live better than most, with access to the decade's main treasure, a smartphone and the internet. Yakut's rasp broke the hush. He didn't raise his voice, yet the boiler's drone seemed to hush for him. "Speak, Dad, in order, all the truth. No guards, no prosecutors, only ours. But a rotten word brings a harsher reckoning than theirs. You know it." Dad swallowed, licked dry lips. "Thief, good men," he began, voice cracking. "I'm just a man, tried to live decent, here too. 4 years left, I work, touch no one. I put into the common, as due. I've got a daughter at home. Wife died 5 years ago. She's 19, studies, she's all I have." He fell silent, gathering scraps of will. The only sound was steam hissing from a crack in a pipe. 2 weeks ago was visit day, short one. She came, crying, says, "Dad, what's happening? Some people are writing me on socials. They're sending photos of her, leaving the institute, going to the store, and writing that if her daddy in camp doesn't shut up and do what he's told, the girl will have it real bad. Threatening to flood the internet with her private photos, to leak her address to the wrong people, to ruin her life. And they told her to tell me to go bow to the intel boss, to become a snitch, to report on the thieves' course." Yakut turned his head slowly to Digit. The smirk slipped, but the gaze stayed cocky. "And you, how are you in this, craftsman?" Yakut's voice was deceptively calm. Digit lifted a shoulder as far as kneeling allowed. "I'm in it because times change, Yakut. New century. You're living by a 40-year-old code. Don't touch family. Don't pilfer the common. Don't snitch. Correct. I didn't touch anyone. Didn't snitch. Didn't pilfer. I used information." Greek frowned. "Explain, scum." "Easy." Digit straightened. Confidence crept into his voice. "I have net access. I can find anyone. Their accounts, their friends, their address by IP. That's a weapon stronger than any shiv. I found Dad's daughter, her VK photos, her friends. Paid a small sum to a guy to take a few photos at the institute. That's all. No threats, no pressure. I only gathered data and sold it to those who wanted it. They bought the info. What they do with it, it's their business. I'm just a businessman. I sold a commodity. Where in your code does it say you can't trade information? Nowhere. It says don't touch family. I didn't touch. It says don't work with cops. I didn't. I rendered a commercial service." Stunned silence. Even hardened hoods along the walls listened with open amazement. A new breed of lawlessness. Technological, impersonal, absolutely cynical. It didn't fit the old frames. Yakut was quiet a long time, staring at the blue rings tattooed on fingers inked when internet sounded like alien talk. "So, you think you found a hole in the law, do you, rat?" "I think the law must keep up," Digit said boldly. "While you write decrees the old way, the world moved on. Today rule those who hold information and dare to use it. It's business. Greek shook his head. Not business. Filth. You put a man's family under the gun. You pushed him toward the goats. That's abetting the administration. I didn't push anyone, Digit squealed. He had a choice. Everyone decides to break or not. My job is to create conditions. I did. He could have refused. It's his problem that he shakes for his daughter. A strong man would find a way out. Dad growled like a wounded animal and lunged for Digit. Two thieves grabbed his shoulders and held him. I'll kill you, mutt, he rasped, drowning in tears of rage and helplessness. Quiet, Dad, Yakut said evenly. We decide here, not you. He looked back to Digit. Something like confusion flickered in his narrow eyes. The old templates failed. On paper, Digit hadn't broken a single written law. He hadn't stolen from his own, hadn't snitched, hadn't insulted a thief. He'd done worse, emptied the law's spirit using tools its makers never imagined. What do you think, Greek? Yakut asked without turning. Greek exhaled heavy. In essence, he's filth. In form, no foothold. He didn't touch family. He sold a tip like a peddler sells a gun someone later uses to kill. You can tax a peddler, sure, but he's not the killer. He's an accessory. Accessory to the cops is a bitch's job. But he'll say he didn't know it was for the intel boss. Say he just sold, and we can't prove otherwise. Tough case, Yakut. Very tough. If we punish him outside the code, lawless, tomorrow anyone can say we're the lawless ones. We set a precedent. A hard pause. Checkmate. Punish him and violate the letter of their own law. Don't punish and let the plague spread, signaling its open season to terrorize inmates' families under a fig leaf of commercial information services. A gut shot to the thieves' idea built on a few simple absolutes: unity against the state, mutual aid, sanctity of family. Then Yakut turned his head to the shadow where gray-haired stood. And why are you silent, gray-haired? You're the smart one. Book reader. Say your word. All eyes went to him. He stepped into the weak light, calm, almost detached face. He glanced at Dad, then Digit, then Yakut. There's no tough case, he said quietly, his voice slicing the boiler's rumble like a scalpel. You're looking wrong. You're fitting an old yardstick to a new product. You must look at the root. A pause to let it soak. What is thieves' law? Not just rules. A survival code. A system that lets us, prisoners, keep human dignity and oppose another system. The state, the cops. The law exists to harden our spirit, our brotherhood. So each one knows that while he's here, his home and family are sacred. That's our strength, what keeps us from breaking. He stepped closer to Digit, who instinctively hunched. Gray hair didn't raise his voice, but the frost in it ran cold spines. What did you do? Not steal, not kill. Worse. You took our main strength, our bond to family and the outside, and turned it into a weapon against us. You created a new kind of fear. Not fear for your hide in here, but fear for your loved ones out there. That fear is the strongest. It breaks anyone. A man who fears for his child becomes controllable. He'll do anything. Snitch, betray, lick the intel boss's boot. You didn't just help the cops. You built them the perfect recruiting tool. You handed them the key to any inmate's soul. He looked to Yakut. He didn't find a hole in the code. He planted a charge under the foundation, not an accessory, a saboteur. Leave this unpunished, and in a few years the thieves' world becomes a herd of spooked sheep. The screws will manage remotely, tugging the strings of their families. He didn't break the letter. He struck at the spirit, the essence. That's the worst crime, worse than pilfering the common, worse than insult. It kills not one man, but the idea. Silence so deep you could hear condensate drip onto cold concrete. The logic was merciless and clear. No appeal to dogma. A dissection to the core. They stood at a cliff edge and hadn't seen it. Yakut nodded slowly, almost with relief. Confusion drained from his eyes, replaced by the usual steel. Decision made. You're no businessman, he told Digit, voice flat. You're not even scum. You're the thing that turns the sacred into a weapon against our own. And we deal simple with such things. Digit understood the game was lost. Arrogance peeled off, his face warped with animal terror. No, wait, I didn't mean, I'll fix it. I'll delete everything. I'll give Dad money. I'll get him transferred. As much as you say, he squealed, trying to crab backward. You don't buy off this, Greek cut him, rising. His bulk threw a grotesque shadow. What do we do? He asked Yakut, but looked at gray-haired. Yakut also looked to him. In that moment, it was clear who had passed sentence. Gray-haired regarded the trembling digit without hate or glee, with the same impersonal curiosity a bugman has for an insect. He committed his crime with technology, with fingers dancing on a screen, he said evenly. So remove his instrument, so neither he nor others tempted to follow can even be tempted. Greek nodded. He went to the wall where Stoker's tools hung and took down a heavy mechanic's hammer. Digit whimpered like a pup and tried to bolt up, but the two thieves who'd held Dad now clamped him iron hard, spread him on the floor. Don't, please, anything. His scream drowned in the boiler's roar as a stoker heaved another shovelful of coal. Greek planted his boot on Digit's forearm, pinning it. This is for Dad's daughter, he growled and brought the hammer down on the fingers of the left hand. The crunch of bone was obscenely loud. Digit's cry turned into a shriek and cut off. Greek stepped over, fixed the right arm. And this is so others don't peddle fear. Another blow, another crunch. Dad watched, eyes wide. No satisfaction, only horror and emptiness. He sank to his knees, covered his face, shoulders shaking in silent sobs. Thieves' justice was more terrible than the crime. Greek let the hammer fall. The metallic clang rang through the boiler. Two thieves hauled Digit's limp, howling body to the door. Dump him at the infirmary, Yakut threw after them. Say he fell off a stair, workplace mishap. The intel boss will understand. When they left, Yakut walked to gray-haired. He studied him a long time, and in the old wolf's gaze appeared something gray-haired hadn't seen in this camp. Not just respect, fear. Not fear of strength or cruelty. Fear of a cold, inhuman mind that saw the essence and past verdicts with the inevitability of death. Yakut understood gray-haired hadn't defended the code. He'd defended the system, so effectively he himself had become a threat to it. You said it right, Yakut rasped. You see farther than all of us. You kept our law today. Gray-haired said nothing. He stared at a dark stain on the concrete where justice had just been done. Then at Dad, still on his knees, crushed and broken. Yes, the law was preserved, order restored. The price was horrifying. Gray-haired, a man without fear, understood that price better than anyone. He didn't just see a rat punished. He saw the tragedy of a system forced to spawn a cruelty equal to the one it fought. In that tragedy, he played the lead, and the most terrifying role, an impassive surgeon cutting out a tumor along with living flesh. No one, not even he, knew what was worse, the disease or this cure. The air in the barracks thickened to jelly. All sounds froze except a distant rising drone. It wasn't the usual clank of bolts or the dogs on the wire. It sounded foreign, mechanical, as if a column of futuristic machines had rolled into the zone. Men clustered at the window, peering into the gray paste of early morning, hunting the source. What is that, boys? Rasped Wheezy, an old recidivist whose face looked like a dried riverbed. They bringing in tanks? Cole didn't go to the window. He sat on the lower bunk, back to the wall, slowly, methodically honing a broken spoon on the concrete. His movements were precise and calm, as if he didn't notice the rising panic. He heard everything, the noise outside, the quickened breathing, the bunks creaking as men fought for spots by the glass. He didn't need to see. He could feel the change. The system's bones creaked, ready to take on a new, uglier shape. The door hissed open on pneumatics, not the usual crash. In the doorway stood men in black, no insignia, faces hidden behind tinted visors. In their hands, not batons, but short devices like scanners. Behind them stood the new intel boss, Major Sokolov. Sokolov was from another world. Trim uniform, cold eyes behind expensive glasses, neat haircut. Not a jailer. A corporate top manager come to audit a failing branch. Up, prisoners. His voice was flat, amplified by a tiny speaker on his chest. Total search. Form up on the yard. Now. This wasn't a search. This was a show of force. 20 men in black per barracks, moving as one organism. No yelling, no swearing, no hits. They pointed scanners and inmates, as if hypnotized, filed out. 2 who tried to protest were folded in seconds and dragged away like trash bags. In the icy wind, they lined the whole colony. about 1,500 gray-robed bodies. Sokolov stood on an improvised platform, his silent guard flanking him. "Citizens inmates," he began, his voice carrying through speakers on the poles. "Starting today, Corrective Facility Number 17 implements an experimental regime. Goal, raise safety, stop illegal activity, and create conditions for your correction." A low wave ran through the ranks. Correction. In these walls, the words sounded like refined mockery. "Each of you will receive new clothing," Sokolov went on, ignoring the rumble. "An RFID tag is sewn into each collar, passive radio frequency ID. From this moment, every step you take will be recorded by the central computer. Canteen, infirmary, work zone, barracks exit, everything under control. Any unauthorized deviation or prohibited area triggers an immediate response from the rapid unit." The yard froze. Even the hardest cases stared with poorly hidden fear. Worse than batons and the hole, a cage within a cage, invisible and absolute. The end of the code, the end of the hustle, the end of the thieves' way that lived on hidden paths and unseen ties. Now the system saw everything. Additionally, his voice grew even colder, canteen access, parcels, and visits will be granted strictly by biometrics, fingerprint and retinal scan. All attempts at substitution are excluded. Welcome to the 21st century, gentlemen. The age of order and technology. Cold stood in the mass without standing out. He watched not Sokolov, but his men, their training, their gear. He saw thermal sights on the roofs, new cameras under eaves, motion detectors along the dead zones. Not a prison, a lab. They were lab rats. The first to break was Amiran, a Georgian thief-in-law, the watcher here until today. They brought him into Sokolov's office with Cold and a couple more bosses. The office was new too. A dark wood desk, a giant wall monitor showing the colony map in real time with hundreds of moving dots. "I want you to understand," Sokolov said, pointing at the screen. "Your game is over. No more watchers, no more district men, no more thieves, only numbered inmates, and the administration. Any attempt to keep the old hierarchy will be treated as organizing a criminal community, with all consequences, new charges, transfer to the one-man unit." Amiran, cocky an hour ago, sat opposite him with rage-fighting fear across his face. "You pig cop," he whispered with an accent. "You're reaching for the sacred, for the thieves' world. This won't stand." Sokolov smirked, tapped a key. The screen zoomed to Amiran's barracks, a cluster of red points tight in a corner. "Your common fun, Mr. Amiran, cash, phones, drugs. The team is en route. In 3 minutes it'll be on my desk. Those now near the stash will get 10 days in the hole. Tomorrow I'll talk to them. I'm sure they'll say a lot about how you made them hold your assets." Amiran paled, not a bluff. His power, built on fear and backroom deals, was collapsing live on the major's monitor. "What do you want, boss?" His voice shrank, oily now. "Cooperation," Sokolov cut him off. "You ensure order. Quiet acceptance of the new rules. No riots, no hunger strikes. In return, I won't push new cases for your old sins. I'll ignore someone sipping Chifir or playing cards, trifles. The system will run. You'll be part of it, cogs." Cold said nothing. He watched the map, the dots. Not people, data, flows of information. Fighting this with knives and yard brawls was pointless, like trying to stab a computer virus. "And you?" Sokolov turned to him, eyes studying him like an entomologist studies a rare bug. "I've been briefed. A man without fear, the gray eminence. You don't chase power, but everyone fears your word. What do you say, inmate Morozov?" Cold's eyes narrowed, empty. "To herd sheep, you tag them," he said flatly. "But a wolf with a tag in his ear isn't a wolf. He's an exhibit." For the first time that day, Sokolov smiled. Predatory. "True. But in my zoo there are no predators, only sheep. Those who refuse shearing go to slaughter. Your choice." Pressure grew daily. The system worked. Guards now patrolled with tablets showing the map and each inmate's location. Passing a kite from barracks to barracks became impossible. 2 men tried the old-school toss over the walkway, caught in a minute. They were taken so hard the blood on the yard took hours to wash. A demonstration. The thieves' world cracked. Crews started eyeing each other. Paranoia ruled. Talk to a guard. Become a rat. Get called to intel. Traitor. Sokolov played this expertly. He summoned people alone, kept them 20 minutes, poured tea, let them go, asked nothing, sowed doubt. The worst blow came 2 weeks in. New parcel rule. Not only the inmate had to pass biometrics, the relative bringing the parcel had to leave prints and a retinal scan too. The zone exploded. The code said, never involve family. Sacred. Clean. Now the intel boss reached there too. Tag not just inmates, but their kin. Take wives, mothers, kids hostage. That evening, Cold's barracks was more quiet. Everyone sat, thieves and workers alike, waiting for his word. Many still had people outside. Now each faced a choice. Refuse parcels, meds, the one thread to the free world, or deal with the devil and let the cops put your family in their database. This is the end, whispered an old thief called Fuse on his 5th bid. 40 years in and I've never seen this. They don't break us. They erase us, turn us to dust. Amirin, black as a storm cloud after his talk with Sokolov, tried to keep face. We answer. Whole zone hunger strike. Let them choke. And then what? Cold asked quietly. His first words all night. We start. 3 days later they force feed. A week in, the weakest fold. 2 weeks in, you, Amirin, will beg Sokolov for slop, because your boys will start eating you for signing them up. Hunger strikes are weapons of despair. We're not desperate. We just don't get who we're fighting. And you do? Amirin's voice carried spite and envy. Cold walked to the window. A red camera LED blinked on the next roof. He's not fighting us. He's fighting chaos. And we are chaos to him. Our code, our moves, our hierarchy, unaccounted variables in his system. He doesn't want to beat us. He wants to digitize us, turn us into zeros and ones. You don't fight numbers. You corrupt them. No one understood. His voice carried no fear, only a taut, ringing focus. He hunted for a vulnerability, not in walls or guards, but in the system itself. He found it where no one looked, human greed. One of the programmers running the new system was a contract kid, pimply, shifty-eyed, boxed in a server room for 30,000 rubles a month. Cold learned of him through a supply worker who brought him tea. Contact seemed impossible. Cold found a way. Through the same worker, he sent the kid a kite. No threats. One sentence. Your system costs millions, and you get peanuts. Unfair. Then an offshore account number and a note. $100,000 waits for a single small hole in your perfect system. A blind shot. Money wired by Cold's outside people. He risked a fat chunk of the common, now scraped together grain by grain with crazy contortions. A week passed. No answer. Pressure peaked. First cracks appeared. One man hanged himself in the drying room because his elderly mother couldn't travel to give Prince and deliver his heart meds. His death sat like a stone on every chest. Then one night, the system hiccuped. A tiny, almost invisible glitch. From Neuro 3 Zwam to Neuro 315, the server logging movements for Barracks 3 and 4 froze. For Sokolov, a minor technical burp. For Cold, a window. He didn't riot. He didn't run. He did something subtler and crueler. He left his barracks, crossed the walkway, the sensors silent, and entered the barracks of the untouchables. In a corner under the bunks, curled up, slept a punk. The same one who once gave Cold up to intel on transfer, broken by their persuasions. The man who started Cold's descent. Cold didn't beat him. He squatted beside him and set on his chest a pack of cigarettes and a chocolate bar. A gift. By thieves' law, to take anything from or give anything to the untouchable caste, except a kick, makes you one of them. A gift to a punk was an unthinkable insult to the whole thieves' caste. Cold didn't do it to insult. He did it for the cameras. Even if logs were down, the video was running. And he knew Sokolov would review footage to investigate the glitch. Next day, the intel boss called him in. On the giant screen, Cold, sitting by the punk. "What is this, Morozov?" Sokolov asked, and for the first time there was a shade of confusion in his voice. "You trying to torch your status? Humiliate yourself? Why?" Cold looked at the screen, then at Sokolov. "You tried to turn us into digits," he said. "You forgot each digit has a value. You see inmate 731 breaking camp code. The thieves see Cold showing your tags, scanners, and servers are nothing. That a man can walk anywhere, do anything, even sit by a punk and hand him smokes, and your vaunted system won't notice. Sokolov stared. Understanding dawned. A challenge, he said at last. A hole in your program, boss, Cold answered. And now everyone here knows it exists. You built a digital camp and forgot it's run by people. Greedy, dumb, sellable people. Now they'll look for other holes. They'll break your system from the inside. They'll sell us blind spots for a pack of tea. You wanted order. You'll get chaos, under my control. By evening, the tale of Cold's night walk spread through the zone. Whispered, signaled, passed with glances. Stronger than any kite. Cold hadn't just broken the intel boss's rules. He'd broken the thieves' rules too. He showed that for him, no laws existed, neither cops nor thieves. Only the goal. In this new war of tech and psychology, survive those with nothing to take. No status, no family, no fear. Administration pressure didn't break him. It sharpened him. He became a virus in Sokolov's system, an unpredictable variable threatening to crash the equation. Amirin and the other bosses watched him with a new feeling. Not just fear, superstitious dread. They feared not his force, but his freedom. The absolute frightening freedom of a man ready to burn himself, if it meant burning the prison to the ground. They knew they'd burn with him. The damp cut deeper than any shiv. In the hole, where the intel boss threw gray-haired for violations, time moved like cold tar. 10 days, 4 icy concrete walls, a slop bucket in the corner, fold-down bunks locked to the wall till lights out. Air so stale, it felt sliceable. Chlorine, urine, and despair. For an ordinary man, it was torture. For gray-haired, it was time to think. He didn't bang the door or curse the guards. He squatted in the center, motionless as a stone idol, staring at a single spot on the filthy floor. His calm scared the administration more than any riot. They didn't get it. For a man who'd lived his whole life in a cage, first the cage of the code, then the real one, swapping one cell for another was just changing scenery. On the 11th day, the door clanked. "Out with your things," rasped a guard with a crooked grin. He had no things, only a robe steeped in the hole's stink. He blinked into the corridor's weak light. No transfer, no search. By the duty post stood Bumblebee, his closest, a man he'd been through more with than anyone here. Bumblebee looked wrecked, shadows under his eyes, earthy skin. He needed a pack of cheap smokes with nervous fingers. "Hey, brother," he forced out, trying to steady his voice. "Intel boss let you go. Said prevention complete." Gray-haired said nothing. He wasn't looking at Bumblebee, but through him. His gaze weighed like a gravestone. He saw not a friend, but a trembling shell full of fear. "Let's go to the barracks," Bumblebee hurried on, unable to bear the pause. A kite came, important. They crossed the yard. Dirty, frozen snow crunched underfoot. Dozens of eyes watched from windows. Gray-haired's return from the hole was an event. Everyone waited to see what came next. War with the Reds, settling scores with the bitch's suit, or something else to smash the rotten balance. Their 8-man cell stank blue with smoke. The thieves at the homemade table stood fast. "Welcome back, Andrei Pavlich," said a young thief called Crust, respectful. Gray-haired nodded without looking. Only the kite mattered. Bumblebee handed him a tight twist of cigarette paper, a road letter from the outside, smuggled via a bought medic. He unfolded it with rough fingers, short lines and chemical pencil. A few sentences colder than 10 days in the hole. The old man left quietly in the infirmary. Cops say heart. Heart, call it despair. Before he went, he asked to pass this. "Beware those who warm their hands at another man's fire. A snake strikes from under the warmest stone." The old man. His godfather in the thieves' world. A legend crowned under Brezhnev. The one who taught gray-haired not just the code, but its essence. He taught him not to fear death, only a dishonorable life. Now he was gone. Not in a scuffle or by a blade, but in a state infirmary like the last mutt. Despair. The word cut. The old man broken by hopelessness, worse than any death. Gray-haired slowly crushed the kite. His face didn't change, not a muscle. But the air in the cell thickened and crackled. Silence. No one dared breathe. "Who else read it?" His voice was a whisper that raised gooseflesh. "No one," Bumblebee snapped. "Got it, brought it straight. A snake strikes from under the warmest stone. The old man never wrote empty words. A warning." Gray-haired scanned the faces. Crust, Cross-Eye, Pate, his proven men, and Bumblebee, the closest, the warmest stone. "Leave us," he said, without raising his voice. The thieves slipped out, shutting the door tight. Only he and Bumblebee remained. "What else from outside?" Gray-haired asked, drilling him with his eyes. "Everything clean, commons intact, people in touch. The load ran your route clean, waiting on a signal for the second batch." Bumblebee rattled facts, a tidy report. He tried to stage routine, but his darting eyes betrayed him. Gray-haired went to the window. The bars split the gray world into squares, a tower with a guard, the wire, a snowy plain running to nowhere, endless prison. "You know why the intel boss locked me up?" he asked without turning. Disobedience?" Bumblebee mumbled. "Refused to go to work?" "No." Gray-haired turned. Frost churned in his eyes. "He made me an offer, to hand you over complete, your pipeline through the work zone. He said they have it all on disk, every step, every call, said you've been on their hook a long time, promised me a medical release." Bumblebee went white, paler than the snow. "He's lying! The red is lying!" he hissed, backing toward the door. "I didn't believe him," Gray-haired went on, stepping closer. "I told him Bumblebee is my brother, that if he opens his foul mouth again, I'll tear it off. Then I sat in the hole, for you." He stopped a meter away. Bumblebee panted, rasping like a cornered animal. "Pavlich, brother, I—" And then a kite came from the old man. He never misread people, never. Gray-haired reached, not to strike. He unbuttoned Bumblebee's collar and pulled out a thin chain. On it hung a small cross and an RFID tag, a flesh-colored chip the size of a pinky nail, the kind sewn into escape risks, or into those who worked for administration. 2010's total control tech. Every step tracked, every move logged on the intel server. "What is this?" Gray-haired asked so quietly Bumblebee barely heard. Bumblebee stared at the chip in Gray-haired's hand like a verdict. A coarse tremor shook him. They forced me," he croaked. "They took my sister. Not to prison. They simply came to her. Plain clothes, showed satellite photos of her kids, the daughter walking home from school, the son on the playground, said accidents happen, gas explodes, brakes fail, said I had a choice, work for them or she buries her children. What was I supposed to do, Pavlich?" A confession, miserable, desperate, sticky with fear, not fear for his hide, fear for his own. "You should have told me," Gray-haired cut him off, voice flat. "Told you, and what would you do? Kill them? Start a war with security services over my sister? They'd rot us all. I only leaked small stuff, about workers, about barracks. Never touched you, Pavlich, I swear. You tipped the infirmary fund, where the money came from, who carried it, through whom. After that they raided and flipped the place. The old man stopped receiving meds. A week later, he died. Small stuff, Bumblebee?" Bumblebee collapsed to his knees, clutching Gray-haired's pant leg, his face twisted with horror and despair. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't. They said routine check. Pavlich, forgive me. Kill me if you want. Kill me. Just don't do this." He knew what awaited him. By thieves' law, death. But death at Gray-haired's hand wouldn't just end him. It would brand his family forever. Son of a rat. Brother of a rat. Gray-haired looked down. No pity, no anger, a burned-out desert. He'd paid for his trust with the death of the only man he respected. Bumblebee had paid with his soul for his sister's life. The price of life. Everyone has one. "Killing you is too easy," Gray-haired said, prying off his hands. "Death is release. You haven't earned release. You will live." He opened the door. In the corridor, pressed to the wall, stood Crust and the rest. They had heard, fear and confusion on their faces. "From this minute," Gray-haired said, loud enough for all, pointing at the shaking Bumblebee, "he is not Bumblebee. He has no name. He's a rat. He worked for the cops. On his tip, the old man died. Anyone who calls him by name, speaks to him, gives him a crumb of bread or a cigarette, or lies beside him will lie under the bunks. He will eat from the slop and sleep by the door until the end of his term. Understood? No answer. Deafening silence. A sentence worse than death. Turn a thief boss into an untouchable camp dust. Every hour of his remaining life would be hell. Beaten, humiliated, raped. No one would step in. Grey-haired's word was law. Bumblebee raised his head. No fear now, only a bottomless black void. He understood. "Pavlich, don't," he whispered with cracked lips. "Better kill me, with a shiv. Here, now." "I said you'll live," Grey-haired answered, and walked deeper into the barracks toward his bunk. No one blocked him. Behind him came a dull thud, then another. The thieves who'd called Bumblebee brother a day ago began carrying out the sentence. They beat him silently, methodically, venting fear, confusion, disgust at his betrayal and at their own fragility. The muffled blows and choking groans blended with the camp's hum and became part of it. Grey-haired sat, pulled an old, faded photo from under the mattress. He was 20 in it. The old man beside him, at a thieves' gathering, arm around his shoulders, laughing. Life, strength, certainty in those eyes. That world was gone. Technology, total surveillance, new methods of the services. The thieves' law turned into a fairy tale for fools. The system no longer broke bones. It broke souls. It found the weak place, sister, mother, child, and pressed until a man became a puppet with an RFID under his skin. Bumblebee's betrayal wasn't just one man's betrayal. It was a symptom of a sickness eating the thieves' idea. When the price of your family's life becomes a bargaining chip with the state, the code stops working. Only animal fear remains. He stared at the photo and, for the first time in years, felt something other than cold rage, a sharp, painful loneliness. He stood at the top of the camp hierarchy. His word weighed like the warden's. Everyone feared him, from workers to crowned thieves. And he was absolutely alone. The old man was dead. Bumblebee, his shadow, his right hand, was a traitor, and would now rot alive in the camp's cesspit. Around him were only people who feared him, respected his strength. No one he could trust. He was a wolf who'd torn out every rival and stood alone on the hilltop. The hill stood in a scorched land where nothing grew. He folded the photo and slid it back, lay down and closed his eyes. From the corridor the dull sounds still came. The price of life, the price of his calm, the price of his power. A price he'd paid without bargaining. He did not fear death or pain. But lying on the hard bunk in the heart of his brutal world, he finally understood what he feared. The void inside. The void left by a dead mentor and a living traitor. The tragedy of a man without fear was not that he could die, but that he might have nothing left to live for. That cold was worse than any hole. Night in the barracks isn't silence. It's a symphony of suffocation. Coughs tearing lungs from within, bunks groaning, moans in sleep, murmurs of minds unspooling. The air is like jelly, sweat, cheap tobacco, rotting teeth, old fear. In a corner under a lamp wrapped in cloth sat three, Baldy, Yakut, and a young kid called Fuse, who'd clung to them after the last mess. Baldy had saved him from the press cell by simply walking in and looking at the bitches carrying out orders. They parted like water before an icebreaker. Yakut broke the hush. He stared a long time at his hand, at the blurred blue ink, domes, stars, rings, each drawing a mile marker to nowhere. "The kid is dead," he said dully to no one in particular. He meant Sergei the Weasel, found 3 days ago in the drying room with a shiv under a rib. Officially a domestic spat. Everyone knew it was an echo of the war with the Caucasians. The Weasel was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He wasn't even 25. Perevozhu na angliski. All his life he'd run errands, bounced from juvie to camps. Did he even remember how freedom smelled? Not this crap here, but the real thing, rain after heat, or his woman. Fuse flinched but kept quiet. He was cut from the same cloth as the Weasel, a generation for whom prison became a second home before they had lived in the first. "I remember," Yakut went on, voice lower, like talking to himself. 17, year 2000. We lived in a settlement called Taiga, nothing but forest for 1,000 versts. No jobs, no money, but vodka in the woods by the barrel. The bandit romance of the 90s hadn't blown away yet. Our watcher was an old crook, Grandad Frost. hair white, eyes like ice. He took us snot-noses under his wing, not teaching exactly, just tossing us little jobs. Lift a load of honey somewhere, lean on a shopkeeper. He drew on a hand-rolled cigarette. The glow briefly lit his weathered, wind-tanned face. I was a hothead, an idiot. Thought it was a game, the real life. Not breaking your back in a mine for pennies like my old man, who coughed up his lungs by 40, but hitting fast and bold so people respected you, feared you. Got grabbed on the first serious job. We hit a dealer's apartment, thought it was empty. He was home with a shotgun. Words flew. He leveled at my partner Sasha. I had a crowbar. I didn't think. I swung. Again. He fell. We cleared the place out. 2 days later, they took us. Sasha pinned it all on me, said I forced him. He got a suspended sentence and vanished. I got 8 years hard. First bid. Yakut gave a joyless shake of the head. That's when I learned it's not a game. They met me at the Central the hard way. Registration, the works. How you gonna live? Who you with? I'd watched movies about thieves. I said, with the people. They put me in a cell with the wanderers. An old thief, Pasha Compass, called me over, looked through me, asked about the case. I told it straight. I killed the dealer. Partner folded. He listened, nodded, then said, "Kid, remember, in this world you have no one. No friends, no kin. There's the human way and the whore's way, and there's you. Every day, every minute you choose your side. Slip once and that's it. No road back. You won't be a person anymore. You'll live among creatures and die like one." He crushed the butt on the concrete. So I walked, by the code, door to door, got out. Where to go? Dad dead. Mom moved to another city with a new man. To them, I was trash, a brand. Here, in this world, I'm someone. They listen. They reckon with me. Second bid, I rolled in already an authority. Then a third. At a 2009 gathering, they put it to me blunt. Said I was worthy, ready to carry the cross. What did I have to lose? No family, no home. Freedom was just an intermission between sentences. I said, ready. That's how I became what I am, a thief. And every day I remember Compass's words. Every day, the line between human and whore is thin as a razor. Temptation is great. The price of a mistake isn't just life. It's your soul, if you still have one. That's it, Fuse. Nobody comes here for romance. They come from hopelessness. They stay because there's nowhere else. Fuse listened, mouth open. To him, it was revelation. He'd thought thieves were kings, gods of this world. Turned out they were chain gang men, shackled to their own laws. All this time, Baldy sat still. He didn't smoke, didn't look around. His gaze fixed on the dark of the barracks where, in murk, hundreds of broken lives slept and stirred, a plaster mask for a face. No emotion. "And you, Baldy," Fuse blurted, voice trembling, "how'd you end up here? You're not like the rest." Yakut shot him a hard look. "You don't ask that?" But Baldy turned his head. For a second, his usually empty cold eyes became bottomless wells with cooled crude oil at the bottom. "I didn't come here. I came from there," he said in a level, toneless voice. It sounded worse than any scream. "You all ran here from something. Poverty, boredom, yourselves. You looked for strength, justice, family. Played a game by others' rules. I came here to work." Yakut tensed. He'd known Baldy for years, seen him in action, in sit-downs, in gatherings, seen the craziest cons and the oldest lawmen fear him. But he'd never known where the man came from. Baldy was an anomaly. He didn't chase power, hoard the fund, surround himself with flunkies. He just existed, and his presence changed everything. "Till 2010, I didn't know what the code was," Baldy began slowly. Fuse and Yakut froze. "I had a job. I was an engineer. I designed security systems, not the ones that beep in stores. Serious ones, banks, corporations, biometrics, smart sensors, thermal cameras, data analysis. I saw the world as a matrix, protocols and code. I had a wife, Lena, and a daughter, Katya, 6 years old. She liked drawing horses. Her whole room was horses." He spoke like reading a spec sheet, dry, emotionless. Each word fell into the barracks hush like a stone into a grave. "I worked for a big outfit, semi-official. They optimized business. In plain words, corporate takeovers. Not fists and brass knuckles like the 90s. Smart. Tech. My job was to find vulnerabilities, not only digital, any. I analyzed satellite images of offices, hacked staff social media, tracked movements through RFID badges, listened to phones. I knew when the director's secretary had her period and when the head of security's kid relapsed. I opened their lives like cans. Then my employers used it. Blackmail, pressure, fake lawsuits, clean work. He paused. Someone snored loudly. The sound felt sacrilegious. One day I dug too deep. Found dirt not on a competitor, but on a co-founder of my own firm. A very high-ranking man, in uniform, not a cop, higher. He laundered dirty money through our holding, tens of millions of dollars. I wasn't supposed to see it. I did. And I made a mistake. I didn't delete the files. I put them on a flash drive. I don't know what I thought, that it was insurance. Naive idiot. They found out. Of course they did. They had specialists like me, maybe better. They didn't kill me. Too easy. They decided to teach me. I came home one evening, door open, too quiet. In the living room sat two men in expensive suits and the man with stars. On the couch, Lena and Katya, alive, terrified. Baldy shut his eyes. For the first time, something flickered on his face. He told me, "You stuck your nose where it doesn't belong, engineer. Thought you were smarter than everyone. Thought code and numbers give you power. Power isn't numbers. Power is deciding who lives and who dies." He put two tablets on the table. One showed a live feed from a sniper scope, crosshairs on my mother, walking the dog 200 kilometers away. The other was my parents' bank account with an erase button. This is your world. Absolute control. We know everything about you and the ones you love. Now, you will choose. He pointed me to a laptop. City infrastructure control. I'd helped design it. Lights, cameras, gates. In 10 minutes, a car will hit this intersection. In it is a man who's in our way. You will hack the lights and cause a crash, all green. Do it. Your flash drive never existed. Your family stays with you. Refuse. He nodded at the couch. Or try to fool us, and your daughter will see her grandma smeared across the asphalt. Then you and your wife go begging, literally. Baldy opened his eyes. The emptiness was absolute. I did it. Sitting next to my wife and daughter, I killed a stranger with my hands on a keyboard. I watched pixels form cars and pressed buttons. I heard Katya crying, felt Lena shaking. When it was done, they left, stood up and left. "You're ours now, forever," they said. He fell silent so long, Fuse thought the story was over. Then he went on, colder than a camp winter. "They didn't lie. They made me theirs. Monthly or bi-monthly, they gave me a job, break a life, ruin a company, set someone up. Every time my family were hostages, not physically, technologically. I knew Lena was under watch. Katya's phone bugged. At any moment they could do anything. I became their slave, the perfect slave, smart, obedient, absolutely afraid. I feared everything. A phone ring, a strange car by the building. I feared Katya's cold because I might be wrecking someone's life and couldn't be there. Fear became air. It ate me from inside. I stopped sleeping, lost 20 kilos. Lena didn't recognize me. I became a shadow. He drew a heavy breath. Then I'd had enough. I copied everything on them, 2 years' worth, and sent it anonymously to several places. Journalists, internal security. I was a double idiot, thought the system could fight itself. That evening they came again. Same man, calm. "You broke the rules. You disappointed us. We gave you a chance to live this kind of life. You didn't appreciate it. Mistakes get paid for." He didn't threaten. He put a phone on the table and played a video. Baldy clenched up. Dash cam, highway, my wife's car. She was driving Katya back from the doctor. A truck swerved head on. No brakes, no chance. He showed me, showed the fire, close-ups, then said, "Fear is a leash. It's for managing the likes of you. When a dog slips the leash, you shoot it. And the pups. So the breed doesn't spoil." He waited for me to scream, to cry, to lunge. Nothing. Something snapped, burned with that car. All my fear, pain, love. Ash left, cold and clean. He looked at his hands. I killed him right there, bare hands, then his 2 guards. I don't remember how. The body moved by itself. When I came to, I sat among corpses. They took me an hour later. I didn't resist. I was silent in court. I didn't care. Life without parole for triple murder with special cruelty. They sent me here, to Polar Wolf, to die. I didn't die. There was nothing left to die. Silence. Even the snorer in the corner stopped. Yakut stared at Baldy with something new after years of knowing everything. Not fear, understanding, horrible, ice-cold understanding. They hadn't taken his life, or freedom. They'd taken his capacity for fear, and the thieves' world, its hierarchy, its code, stood on fear. Fear of lawless abuse, of being thrown down, of death, of losing face. Baldy feared none of it because the worst had already happened. Any threat, any shiv under the ribs, any press cell, children's games by comparison. He didn't play their games, didn't live by their law. He walked through their world like a ghost, pursuing a single goal known only to him. That's why they fear you, Yakut rasped, a statement, not a question. You're not one of us, worse than any cop or suit. They still fear, you don't. You're a walking dead man here to collect debts. Baldy nodded. I have a list, not on a flash drive. Here. He tapped his temple. Every name in the chain, from small hands to the top. I came to your world because it's the only place where the law can't reach them. Your code, your fund, your ties, your gang wars, their tools, resources. I climb not for a crown, I climb for access. To get to each one by one, and when I'm done. He didn't finish. The unfinished said more than any threat. It explained his pitilessness and sit-downs and why he broke people without blinking. He wasn't asserting power. He was clearing his path. Fuse shrank against the wall, shaking. His bandit romance, his notions of honor and might turned to dust. He saw the underside, and it was monstrous. He looked at Yakut, a man who'd lost his life chasing a phantom status, and at Baldy, a man who'd lost his soul and become a ghost carrying death. Sleep, Baldy said flatly, stood, lay down, and turned to the wall. A minute later, his breathing was even. He slept like the dead. Yakut and Fuse sat long in the corner, listening to the barracks' suffocating symphony. Each thought his own thoughts. Yakut about the force of nature beside them, and that the ending would be written in blood. Fuse, for the first time in his useless life, truly wanted freedom. Rain after heat. Girls drawing horses. The place he'd run from and might never return to. 2016. Federal Special Regime Penal Colony Number 6. Known in the shadow world as the Polar Wolf. No howling here. Silence. A silence worse than howling. Gray sat on the edge of a punishment cell bunk he'd turned into a throne room. Concrete walls half-painted institutional green, peeling with damp. The air, thick and stale, smelled of bleach, sweat, and the cold steel of his will. The last offshoot of the old thieves' formation. He broke a lawman not with a shiv and a transfer shower. Cleaner, he framed him, accused him of skimming the fund, which Gray himself had emptied through straw men and converted to crypto. A word the old thief couldn't even pronounce. A man whose word had been law for 30 years, from Shikotan to Kaliningrad, was decrowned by a gathering. Conducted via an encrypted chat on a burner smartphone, smuggled in by a bought guard. He wasn't lowered by lawlessness, but by technology. Gray was the product of a new age, an age where an RFID tag on a prisoner's robe weighed more than stars inked on a chest, and access to a VIN database beat any common fund. He didn't break people. He analyzed them, found vulnerabilities, system errors in their firmware, greed, pride, fear, and hit delete. They feared him not for strength. He had little. They feared the void in his eyes. Nothing in them, no rage, no rush, not even cold hate. Only calculation. He moved like an algorithm, 10 moves ahead. He didn't fear death. He'd died inside long ago. He didn't fear pain. He didn't feel it. He was the perfect predator for a digital camp. The whole door screeched aside. On the threshold, the intel chief, Major Reshetnikov. Ferret face, shifty eyes that saw everything. 2 guards behind him. Gray, meet your new roommate, he drawled. Bored alone, huh? Brought you an educated conversationalist. They shoved in a gawky man of about 50 in thick glasses. Fresh-pressed robe hung on him like a saddle on a cow. He stumbled, almost fell, catching air with long pianist's or surgeon's fingers. "Meet the professor," Reshetnikov nodded. "Article 275, treason, cybernetic scholar. Leaked some of our surveillance R&D to the Yankees. Irony, eh? Built the cage, ended up in it. Play nice, boys." The door slammed. The lock's clang sounded final. The professor took off his glasses, wiped them with his robe, put them back on. He scanned the cell. Bare walls, a stool welded to the floor, bunks, a slop bucket. His gaze settled on Gray. Not frightened, studying. Like an entomologist peering at a rare bug. "Good evening," he said quietly, as if in a university corridor, not the polar wolf's hole. Gray said nothing. He scanned the object. Height 180, weight 70. Physically nil. No thief world signs, likely no tattoos. A civilian, random in this hell. Such men don't last. They break in a day. Yet they put him here, with Gray, company worse than torture. Not random. The intel boss had a game. "Sit." Gray's voice was flat, dead, an ECG line. He nodded at the concrete. The professor sat by the cold wall without curling up, just watching. An hour, 2. The silence turned thick and tangible. Only drips into a puddle by the bucket and the occasional dog bark on the perimeter. Gray didn't move. Sunk-in calculations, flows, lines of influence. Who replaces the decrowned thief? How will territory redistribute? Which assets to seize? His brain worked like a supercomputer, processing terabytes of criminal data. "You weren't always like this," the professor said suddenly, calm, almost indifferent. Gray turned slowly. "Wrong kind of question here. This world didn't talk like that." "Shut up, scholar," Gray cut him off. "Breathe quieter. You'll live longer." "I'm not afraid," the professor said just as quietly. "I have nothing left. My life is erased. Family abroad thinks I'm a traitor. Colleagues turned away. My research classified and assigned to others. I'm a function set to 0. I'm curious. I've studied systems all my life. Social, digital, biological. You're a unique system. An engine tuned to perfection and missing the main human factor. Fear. Not innate, acquired. There had to be a fault. A critical error that rewrote base protocols. What was it?" Gray stared, unblinking. First time in years someone spoke to him not as thief, boss, or monster, but as an object of study. It slipped past armor along an unexpected vector. Words like a virus into the deep, archived layers. Critical error. He saw not concrete but faded flower wallpaper in a Khrushchevka. 8 years old. Year 2000. His father, a small-time trader, crossed some crew. 3 men in leather, no shouting, quiet talk, mother crying, father on his knees, he, a little boy, under the table, shaking so hard his teeth chattered, eyes closed, ears open, a dull thud, mother's sob, another blow, silence, then a smell, blood and fear. One bent to look under the table. In the man's eyes he saw his own face, warped by terror, wet with tears and snot. He didn't scream, he wet himself. The man smirked. "Look, he pisses himself from fear. Don't touch him, let him live. He's already broken." They left. He crawled out. 2 corpses in a tiny room and a puddle of his shame. He didn't die. He shut off. Swore. Never again to be afraid. Cut the organ out. Fear, along with love, pity, compassion. Left only a cold, ringing mind. Emptied himself. "You talk too much, Professor." Gray's voice dropped a shade, a faint burr in it. "Not valued here." "What is valued?" the scholar pressed. "Force? Yours isn't muscle. Power? Yours is an illusion bounded by the fence and that major's will. You built an empire in an aquarium. Even there they fear you because you play by logic. They live by emotions, rituals, notions. You're a glitch in their matrix. Paradox. Any system seeks self-preservation and expels foreign bodies. Sooner or later, it will isolate and delete you." Steps outside. The lock clanked. Reshetnikov again, now with 2 men in plainclothes. FSB faces, gray and blank. "Serov, Andrei Viktorovich," one read from paper, ignoring the camp nickname. "Out, with belongings, though you have none." Gray rose. No questions. Questions signal weakness. He stepped out. Reshetnikov snickered. Your professor did his job. Diagnostic tool. We needed to know if you had any vulnerabilities, emotional triggers. You do. Deep down, but you do. Thanks for the help, Professor. Back to your cell. You'll get time off. The professor stood and shuffled out without looking at Gray. No triumph, no regret, just fatigue, function complete. They led Gray not to the transfer box, but to the intel office, the same room where he'd cut deals with the major. Now, one of the plainclothes sat at the desk, a laptop on the table. The other stood by the wall. Sit, Andrei Viktorovich. The man gestured. His voice was as flat and emotionless as Gray's. Tea? Coffee? No? Suit yourself. He turned the screen toward Gray, a sprawling chart like a family tree. Hundreds of names, nicknames, photos, lines red, blue, green, money streams, drug shipments, contract hits. The criminal map of Russia over 5 years. At the very top, the center of the web. Gray's photo from his file. Impressive, isn't it? You did colossal work, cleared out old, erratic lawmen, centralized flows, moved it all to digital, built an ideal controllable criminal corporation. We couldn't have done better. Gray kept silent, an inner cold not of fear, but of not understanding. You think you're that smart? The man smirked. Think you cracked our systems, bought our people, got access, kindergarten. We fed you what we wanted, led you like a bull with a ring. That decrowning, the unbuyable guard who sold you the intel. Our man, ordered to be bought. That DMV database hole you used to trace rival couriers, we left it for you. Your crypto wallets, we see every transaction. Pause. Let it sink in. You're no predator, Serov. You're a forest janitor, a tool. We used you to clean the Augean stables of the criminal world, of the code, gatherings, 19th century folklore, and build a system controllable from one server. You were our project, Project Liquidator. You executed it brilliantly. Thank you for your service. Words fell like molten lead, burning holes in the void. His entire life, path, genius, uniqueness, strength built on lack of fear, stagecraft. He wasn't the director. He was a puppet who mistook strings for fingers, not a player, a piece. The professor's line echoed, a system either rejects or assimilates the foreign. They hadn't rejected him. They'd used him. Worse than death. Worse than being thrown down. Total null. And now, he forced out, an alien voice. Now the project is closed, the officer shrugged. Tool no longer needed. Worse, it knows too much. You walk out on parole tomorrow. Papers are ready. Gray looked up. For the first time in 20 years, something showed in his eyes. Bewilderment. Why? Because they're waiting outside. News that you were our project from day one is already out. Through the same channels you love. We leaked a couple docs, call recordings. Enough to erase doubt. To the thieves' world, you're not just dirty. You're staff. A brand that never washes off. We're not releasing you into freedom, Serov. We're releasing you into the Colosseum. Everyone you humiliated, robbed, whose kin you destroyed, will hunt you. Will watch. A lesson for anyone tempted to follow your path. He closed the laptop. You're free to go. Next day, the Polar Wolf gates opened. Gray stood on a snowy road in a cheap jacket and stiff boots from the storeroom. Release paper and 3,000 rubles in his pocket. Frost bit his lungs. Endless white tundra. Silence. He was free, and he had never been more imprisoned. He reached the nearest town, rented a cot in a stinking flop. He didn't run or hide. Pointless. The system he'd built could see him. Every camera, card swipe, call. Under the bell jar. He waited. They came on day 3. Not leathered bruisers, young men in tracksuits with eyes as empty as his once were. A new generation he'd spawned. For them, there are no codes. Only the goal. They found him in a filthy dive, staring at a cloudy glass of rotgut. He saw them, and, for the first time in 20 years, felt it. Fear. Not sticky animal fear of death. Existential dread. Fear of meaninglessness. That all his life, his tragedy, his grand sacrifice were farce. He was neither hero nor anti-hero. He was a miscalculation, a statistical error to be written off. He didn't resist. He sat and looked at them with eyes no longer empty, but full of cosmic terror. In their hands he saw not knives, but an eraser about to rub him out. His last thought wasn't of parents, revenge, or power. He saw himself again, an 8-year-old under the table, and understood he'd never crawled out. All his life, he built walls, raised empires, moved pieces, while remaining that terrified child in the dark. He closed his eyes. Thieves feared him because he was a man without fear. His tragedy was that he died not by another's knife, but by realizing his fearlessness was the greatest lie. A man who deceived himself is doomed to oblivion. No one remembered him as a great thief or a vile rat. He was erased like a system glitch, an empty line of code, and that was worse than any death. That was the price of the void.